for stepping up and doing something, because I've been trying to do this in other communities. So I just want to thank them for doing this and getting the word out. I grew up in the North Shore, and I've lived in the Glenview area for the past 25 years. I have a master's in counseling, and I worked in the field of substance abuse. And why I speak out now is my daughter became a heroin addict at the age of 16. And I mean, I was so shocked. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know heroin had made a comeback. I mean, I've been out of the field of addiction for a while, but I just was stunned and shocked. And as they were saying, the shame. It's like, okay, I worked in the field of addiction. I had these talks with my daughter. You know, I never dreamed living in Glenview and, you know, in the North Shore that my kid would become a heroin addict. You know, I felt really helpless, and I caught it relatively early. I think she had been using 7 weeks, and her dad did not even believe that she was a heroin addict, so I had to get her drug tested for him to believe. And what I did is, you know, just tried to take action quickly. I put her in a treatment. And just to backtrack, I mean, she was a wonderful girl. She's my only child. And, you know, I never really had problems with her. We were really close. We had, you know, open communication. And, you know, I did not have problems with her. And in high school, she kind of changed friends and got involved with this older boy who was a graduate from GBS too. And, you know, football star. And he's the one that introduced her to it. And, you know, my world basically fell apart. And I tried to help her. You know, I put her in treatment and thought she was inpatient, she was doing what she was supposed to, and, you know, fessing up to other drugs she had tried, which was drinking, you know, smoking pot. And during that first treatment, her boyfriend overdosed and he died. And his little brother found him. And I was the one that had to tell my daughter that he died. And they were really concerned. So was I. I mean, it was heartbreaking to tell her. So they kept her in treatment like 3 more days, and then she got out. And she was doing the things you know, you're supposed to do: go to meetings, get a sponsor, you know, try to hang with the right people. And so she did that for a while, and she relapsed and started using again. And then a guy overdosed. It was the boyfriend's best friend. She had snuck him in my house. I didn't even know he was there. And he overdosed, and my daughter at least had enough sense to call the paramedics and the police. And this was at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was at the doctor's office right across the street. I lived right across the street from the high school. And came home, and there were 5 squad cars in my driveway with 2 paramedics. I mean, it just became a nightmare. So I put her in treatment again, thinking, you know, this is the answer. I was hopeful, trying to get her, you know, the best care, and the pattern just kind of repeated itself. You know, she would try, she would do good for a while, and the disease, her addiction, had just progressed. And as, you know, this using heroin, it just gets nasty. It's a horrible, horrible drug. It's so physically addicting. And I had her in treatment, so she ended up dropping out of regular school because she had missed months and months. And I finally put her in a long-term treatment. And then she was going to go into a halfway house. And she chose to leave early. And it wasn't like, it was a volunteer, you know, so when she said, I'm leaving, she was leaving. I mean, they couldn't force her to stay there. So she started stealing and getting arrested for retail theft and, you know, doing things that she would never have done. And she was doing all this because she wanted to get the heroin. And when you become a heroin addict, you do anything to get the drug. And that's just the reality of using heroin. I mean, to me, I witnessed this. I didn't even know my child anymore. She was lost. This drug took the person she was. It took her personality. It took her from me. And it took her soul. I don't know how else to describe it. Heroin is, you know, I equate it with like the devil. It is just an evil, horrible drug. You know, I did everything in my power to try to help her and encourage her and all that. And I just got to a point where I realized, and it took me, you know, over a year, that I can't help her. I don't have control over her disease. She has to want to help herself. So right now, she got arrested one too many times, and I stopped bailing her out, and, you know, started practicing some Al-Anon steps, and had to make her responsible for her own consequences. So right now, she's in Cook County Jail. And, you know, obviously I'm not proud to say that, but the reason I'm doing this is she had 3 more friends die that were all teenagers. And I'm just talking this Glenview, Northbrook area, died in an 18-month period. And after the 3rd death, her and I started a Facebook page together, and it's called North Shore Secret Heroin Problem. And after the 4th friend died, I was like, this is crazy. Someone has got to step up, someone's got to do something. So I started doing forums, and the first one I did was in my town, Glenview. And I got some speakers, recovering addict, and, you know, got some media, asked the police to participate, and, you know, I'm just trying to get the word out because I don't want another parent to have to go through this. I mean, it tears a family apart. And the reality that you can overdose is so real, it's so easy. These just weren't random kids. These are people I knew too. You know, all from nice families. And all teenagers. So, you know, just briefly what it was like for me, it was a nightmare. And I wanted to wake up and I couldn't. I lived, you know, in total fear every night. Like, is she going to be alive? Is she going to come home? You know, what is she doing? Where is she? And, you know, I was completely helpless. But signs before she started using the heroin were she had a new boyfriend. She did stop hanging around with some of her old friends because they didn't do heroin. And she, you know, would drink. She told me she tried pot. And she started acting difficult, especially around 15, 16. But after the heroin, she stopped coming home. She stopped calling. She'd sneak out of the house. She'd sneak back in the house. She's lying, cheating, skipping school, stealing. Her grooming changed. I saw her throwing up, but I had, you know, I didn't realize that would be a sign of withdrawal. Of course I do now. And as the chief was saying, for me the telltale sign was the small pupils, and a slower, calm voice. Her voice changed, the nodding off, which he said, missing items, stolen money, definitely a change in behavior.